what Josh's objectives on this particular
Thank you, Madam.
project.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Josh, his objective today is to present a well-organized and well-presented speech. I am excited to hear about Josh and about his speech he's going to present today. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mary T. Our first speaker is Josh Jordan. Josh is South Louisiana native and moved to Colorado in late June with his wife. He loves his job, his family, many hobbies, and the outdoors. Today, he will be delivering his first research speech titled Dog Shock Collars, where he will discuss this topic in depth. Let's welcome Josh Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. It's an honor to speak with you today. I'm going to first start off by, if I can introduce you to my dog here, Red. This is Red. He's a 140-pound Akita Mastiff mix. And he's got a lot of personality, but he's very, very hard-headed. Very hard-headed. I'm going to give you a story to portray an example of this. Red and I were hiking one day near our neighborhood, and on the Cresta Trail, if you guys know where Cheyenne Mountain High School is, there's a trail behind it, and Cresta Avenue is right in front. Anyway, we're towards the end of our hike, and all of a sudden, Red perks up into his prey position. He's got extremely high prey drive, so I knew something was there. And out comes a herd of about half a dozen mule deer. So I knew what he wanted to do. I said, Red, no, stay. Sure enough, he didn't stay. He took off after those deer. Those deer ran across Cresta Avenue, and Red ran right into the road. It's the busiest street in our neighborhood. We'll come back to that. So what's the solution for this, right? This happens a lot. A lot of dogs do this, right? And it's a big problem. You could put them on a leash, but it's not fun for you. I personally don't like it. And your dog doesn't want to be on a leash. You could keep your dog in the yard, but that's kind of cruel to the dog. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is shock collars, why I think you should use them, and why I think they're imitable. So why I think you should use them is one thing. I'm going to talk about how to use it properly and how not to use it, and some misconceptions about shock collars. So here's some stats just to reinforce why you should use them. 1.2 million dogs are killed on the road yearly, right? 1.2 million dogs. Second stat, last year, 1 million dogs sustained snake bite injuries, right? And then the third point is simply, there's countless noise complaints from some certain dogs that are untrained and dogs jumping on people. We've all had that dog that jumps on you, and it's just aggravating because the owner's not training it, right? So going back to Red's story about chasing that herd of deer. Luckily, he was not hit by a car. There was no traffic. I corralled him back to the trail, fussed at him, but I guarantee you he knew what he was doing. He heard me tell him stay while he was chasing those deer, but that mule deer ribeye was more important than what I was saying. So I'm going to fast forward a couple months after having bought a shock collar, researching how to solve this problem with hard-headed dogs. Red and I were hiking in the southern part of the state, camping, and we were on a plateau that was hundreds or maybe even thousands of acres. And we just set up our camp and noticed a herd of elk. It was about 200 plus, and I had never seen elk before. I was so excited. Luckily, I had my camera, and I had Red with me. And so we packed our backpack. They were probably a mile away. We went downwind of them, stalked them through the tree line, got close, took a picture, got closer, took a picture. We were able to get like 50 yards from him and take a picture. And you could see the conflict in Red. He wanted to chase after him. He wanted to eat him. But he had been trained with that shock collar for about 2 months, and I told him to stay, and he stayed. He didn't want to stay, but he knew that my command was not optional. So that's a little bit about my story. I want to transition to my second portion, which is how to use a shock collar, right? And there's two areas I want to discuss here that I think are important. One is the fit. Two is the grade of the shock. The fit, it can be simply told to you by a general rule of thumb, which is 2 fingers between the collar and the dog's neck. This will ensure proper comfort while also maintaining a good connection. So you don't want it too tight, right? It'll be comfortable. It'll be uncomfortable for your dog. And if it's too loose, the shock will not work. So the second part is the shock grade or the collar grade. And what I've found is most of the grades are small dog, medium dog, big dog, right? So Red is a big dog. He needs a big shock grade so that it'll be effective for him. You don't want to get a big shock collar for a big dog for a small dog. That would just be terrible. You would cruel to your dog, right? And I bought mine at PetSmart. I simply walked in, asked the lady, I said, look, I've got a 140-pound Akita. Do you have a shock collar? She showed me, told me about all of them. I walked out with a good product. So transitioning into the last portion of my speech, which is some things to avoid and some misconceptions about shock collar. You don't want to make it, number one, you don't want to make the shock painful. And this is one of the main misconceptions about them. And I can't tell you how many looks I get from people. If I take them to the restaurant, it's like they look at the shock collar and they look at me and it's like, you are just the cruelest person. It should not be painful for your dog. It should be a setting that usually, the settings are usually from 1 to 10, right? 10 being the highest voltage, 1 being the lowest. And a simple way to test it is you start at 1, nothing, 2, nothing, 3, 4. Your dog should be looking around. It's just like an aggravating little, like somebody slapping them in the neck. And this is simply just saying, hey, I'm telling you to come here and you're not coming here, and that your command is not an option, right? Because it could be a life or death situation for your dog. So, and the last part is you don't want to initially train your dog with this collar. Okay, what I mean by that is you don't want to teach him here if he doesn't know here. It's not a magic button, right? So hopefully this was beneficial. Dogs can unknowingly put themselves in grave situations, and they can put your life or their life in danger. And a shock collar is simply a tool to let them know that your commands are not an option. And the purpose of this collar is just to reinforce important and possibly life-threatening commands.
Thank you, Josh.